Christmas is right around the corner, so there's another reason for us to celebrate. My name is Lucci, hosting today's edition of Let the People Talk. Our guest on the program this morning, coming in to represent, defend, I suppose, the party that is in government. This is the UPND. The media director joins us this morning, Mr. Mark Simuuwe. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Thank you very much, and good morning to our dear listeners.
Thank you very much for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Coming in on a morning where they debate on many platforms, many of the newspapers. If you just peruse a lot of our newspapers this morning, the big conversation revolves around the president's trip to Tanzania yesterday for the inauguration of the president of Tanzania. The News Diggers, as an example, their lead headline this morning: opposition condemn HH for congratulating Tanzanian president over disputed election. The Mast, their lead headline: HH Tanzania trip sparks outrage as State House defends attendance at the Tanzanian president inauguration. The Times and the Daily a little more toned down, as you'd expect. Their focus in terms of the Tanzania story is all about peace. HH preaches peace, dialogue in Tanzania, remain peaceful. HH implores Tanzanians agreed with the outcome of last week's polls. That's the Times of Zambia. So that's the big story in a lot of our papers this morning. And a lot of the debates on radio, online, have all focused around why the president traveled to Tanzania for this inauguration. And that's a good thing that you're here, because I know that you have a bit of insight that you can give to the people of Zambia as to why it is that the president felt the need to travel to an inauguration when it feels like morally it was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think it's important for us to indicate from the onset that Tanzania and Zambia have enjoyed cordial relations for many, many years. And we have also exported quite a number of products into Tanzania. Just last year in 2024, our total export earnings into Tanzania amounted to $103.24 million US dollars. And you know that this is not the only thing that we're exporting. So far, with our newly established fertilizer plants, we have already started pushing much of the fertilizer, especially into Mbeya. And you have also issues relating to slugs being exported there. Also food stuff into DRS, Tanzania. And I must mention that this is partly one of the key routes that has been consistent in terms of stability to the sea, and with less disruptions over the years. You are aware that we have had different routes to the sea. Some of them have been marred with disruptions by various factors. But with this route, you agree with me that it houses a part of our biggest industries under the IDCs, and which in a way benefits from Tazama. And this is the refinery that we have benefiting from Tazama pipeline, where you have a pipeline from the sea at the port up to this country. That is a huge project. It's not a project to joke with. Not only that particular project, you also have the Tazara, or Tanzania Zambia Railways, and whose life is secure, especially after the MOU was signed among President HH, President Samia, and President Xi Jinping of China, to see to it that there is rehabilitation of the Tazara Zambia Railways. And once that is commenced, we are also told that a new line will have to be put in place, including the wagons, giving it a lifeline, which will also culminate into job creation. Because you know that when you have an effective railway system, it means you create more jobs. In addition to that, it will also reduce on the stress suffered by the road network, which has been under construction for some time, and means we can now turn to the railway line to export our goods and services. So the relationship that we have cannot be overemphasized in that line. But that does not justify any misunderstanding. I think the president has been very clear. Tanzania being a sovereign state. It has its own systems and institutions. Where the elections are disputed, they have a court system there. Where there's contestation, they have a system. But where legitimate legal institutions decide to declare the head of state a winner, it doesn't matter how disputed elections are, because the legitimacy of that particular election is only realized by the people of Tanzania, and not really the observers.
Yeah. So do you think that the moral, that the economic benefits outweigh the moral benefits, or the moral argument? Maybe that's the phrase, that the economic argument outweighs the moral argument.
It is a balance that we are striking. This is why we are saying, in addition to talking about the cordial relations we've enjoyed, the president went further to talk about the need for stability, the need for peace, the need for dialogue, that we do not need to resort to violence as a way of settling political misunderstandings. And it should be also noted that when you look at his speech, which you may have followed closely, you will note in the speech that one of the things that he brought out was to give himself as an example. That I lost elections many times, about 6 times. He had an option to take to the street. But does that resolve a problem? Does that reverse the situation? For example, I'll give you the disputed elections in 2016. Later on, he was even locked up on another charge that was trumped up. But then everybody, of course, saw what happened. It was very difficult to hear the presidential petition. In a normal setup, we should have expected the presidential petition to have been heard so that people know what really transpired. But even then, even when he was arrested, his own followers never took to the street. I think these are things that he wanted to bring out, that look, I understand what you as opposition may be going through, the pain that you have, which is unbearable. But check, I had this experience. I had to choose peace over instability. And as he has been indicating, that instability anywhere is instability everywhere, to demonstrate that world economies are interconnected and they are interdependent. And most importantly, for a country which is land-linked like Zambia, already we are talking about the interconnector, which is supposed to allow us to import electricity from Tanzania, because we do not have. Previously, Tanzania had excess power, but we could not tap into the excess power that they had because there's no interconnectivity. And we have a shared history. And for avoidance of doubt, which many people also needed to appreciate, it would seem to me that the narrative that has been advanced in Zambia doesn't seem to really... You've heard the president talk about Zanzibar. You've heard him talk about the mainland. You've heard him talk about Pemba. Now, you need to understand that where that particular country comes from, it has a background of a monarchy. There are kingdoms coming together. And back where we're coming from politically, you may recall that President Magufuli the late was coming from the mainland. President Samia was coming from the island. And for many years, without prejudice, there has been advancements by certain proponents to declare the island as an independent entity. But the system that has been put in place, governed by the people, prevailed to have these unified territories together, run under one administration. And these are some of the things that Zambians need to appreciate. So you have a situation where the leader now is coming from Zanzibar. And if you look at the place historically, you find that's quite a controversial undertaking. So whatever hopes that our opposition in Zambia, for example, had, cannot be executed. Yeah. If you do understand the historic aspect of the political dynamics in Tanzania. It's interesting
that you phrase it like that. But here's what I heard a lot of people in the morning saying. A lot of people in the morning seem to have this belief that the president chose to go to Tanzania but didn't go to Zimbabwe for the inauguration, didn't go to Malawi for the inauguration. How important is it for him to have gone to Tanzania when he didn't go to these other places, which for example, Malawi, as an example, was, for all intents and purposes, a very peaceful election. There was nothing disputed about the person that ended up winning the election. But in this case, it's a very disputed election. We're getting different reports of how many people died, how many opposition leaders were thrown into jail. And I think that's the argument that a lot of people have to say, but okay, here are the facts. Why would you then choose to go to what people are, to an inauguration of somebody that is perceived to be, for all intents and purposes, a dictator?
Now, let me first start with the very, very first part of your question, Malawi. We never missed Malawi. Zambia was in attendance. The very fact that the head of state does not go does not mean we were missing. Their representatives said, even in Tanzania, not all the leaders across Africa attended. You find that maybe you had 10 to 10 or 12 leaders in attendance. How many leaders are in the region? You heard the president talking about maybe speaking to a large extent on behalf of SADC. There's representation coming into effect. And then also I must mention that in all these countries in the region that have elected leaders during the inauguration, Zambia has been represented. And there is nothing sinister about the president attending or not attending. You may recall that the same debate was advanced during the UN General Assembly, where some people thought that it would have been appropriate for him to attend those meetings. We had a representative who represented the president in the same manner presidents are represented world over. And there was nothing illegal about being represented, because the speech that was delivered on behalf of President HH. And whatever was delivered represented the words of President HH. So a physical presence cannot, absence cannot extinguish the very fact that we were represented in these countries that you've talked about. To advance such an argument doesn't help in any way, because there's nothing legal about it. Now, coming to Tanzania, where you're saying this is disputed, from whatever angle you look at it, disputed or not, there have institutions there which legitimized and later on declared a winner. So who is Zambian to go and say this is not the president-elect? Because it's not a coup d'etat, my friend, okay? It's different where you have a military takeover and then the president goes to people voted there. Disputed or not, institutions that are credible enough had to declare what they consider to be, whom they consider to be a legitimate leader who stood out. So we can't delve into the nitty-gritties of why was she declared a winner, because they have institutions that have been established. It's like what we have in Zambia. We had presidents that came to attend the inauguration of ECL in 2016, even amid the presidential petition. So what would the same mouth which is speaking today say if we had presidents that came to attend the inauguration of Edgar Lungu in the wake of a highly contested presidential petition? We had them, they arrived here. So we need to be sincere with ourselves and indicate that once an institution has declared that person is a president-elect.
But you can understand. You can understand the sort of moral. You can understand the moral. Obviously, morality. I can ask you this as somebody who teaches law. I hear you. As somebody who teaches law, I can ask you this. From a morality perspective, you can understand why people are exactly.
Morality is relative, my brother.
Okay.
It's relative in the sense that it changes from time to time. So if the majority of the Tanzanians voted for the president, who is marked to raise issues of morality? Because they are a democracy. And then the other flip side of the coin that I need to advance at this point, which people need to appreciate, is that you have a liberation movement in Tanzania. And I think this is very important for our conversation. You have a liberation movement in Tanzania which is very strong. The standoff may not have been within the liberation movement, but from the opposition that want to put an end to the liberation movement party. So you see the difficulties that we have there is that they have had the Chama cha Mapinduzi very strong. It's like you're talking about ZANU-PF, where the standoff is not within, but the opposition crying foul that elections have been rigged. They are not free and fair and whatnot. So it's important that even as we have this discussion, we have this background information. Like I mentioned to you, to play a devil's advocate, I should further tell you that what we've been seeing on the Zambian social media has been quite toxic, and we never expected that from a responsible neighbor who knows that if Tanzania was unstable, Zambia would be to lose more. You'll have no fuel in the whole country. You'll be using bearer, but to what extent? To use trucks to start ferrying. All these brothers and sisters because, for example, bringing a used car from Japan in South Africa is not allowed in terms of driving. You can't drive it on their roads. You have to put it on a carrier, on a truck, up to maybe at the border, which is very expensive for an ordinary citizen who buys a used vehicle from Japan. Tanzania allows us to do that on their roads. What exports would be affected? The things that we are talking about, we were just talking about.
So, in other words, the economic argument outweighs
that is
all other arguments.
That is one of them, but I'm saying it's a balance.
Okay.
Because why it is a balance is because stability of Tanzania is very important to our country. It's also important for Africa. You are aware that any African country which has gone to civil war have not healed to date. Some are still fighting, they're still running. Some nationals have abandoned their nationality forever because of such things. And sometimes you need to be very careful when you're dealing with politics. If you take politics as idolatry, then you are doomed as a country. It must be a system of ushering in leaders into leadership. Now, let me also mention that I was trying to play a devil's advocate by indicating that what we are seeing on social media has been very unfortunate, where Zambian political parties started throwing propaganda online on what was not happening there. Deep down in our hearts, much of what we know ourselves at individual level, when you look at the political dynamics of Tanzania, is that it is almost difficult or impossible to oust a leader who's coming from Zanzibar, because the decision can amount to a grave mistake, especially given the historical background I've stated. You have a leader that is coming from a part of the country that has created this unitary state, a part of the country that oftentimes has historically made attempts to go alone. A leader is coming from there. It would be asking for doom to oust such a leader. I would not want to go further, but I want to just appeal to Zambians that those that do not understand the history there, this is what they've been playing with.
Okay.
And this is what some of them did not know.
Okay.
And further, Tanzanians have chosen, they have elected their leader. Obviously, those that voted for President Samia are excited.
Yeah.
And it's the name of the game.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to spend too much.
In the same manner that you heard PF saying that elections were not free and fair.
Yeah. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I just want to get your thoughts, because obviously a lot of people have their own ideas. They've been, again, like you said, on social media, even on radio, people have their thoughts around whether or not he should have attended or should not have attended. So I really wanted you to give us some form of indication on, the economic side, the moral side. So thanks for sharing that information. But there are some bigger things that we need to talk about that are affecting our country. Let's begin, and then we'll do the politics side later. Let's begin with the big one, the big story this morning as well, even though it's not dominating all our papers. Electricity. Yesterday, ZESCO put out a load shedding schedule that indicated that residential customers will now be receiving 3 hours of electricity. This obviously goes, in my eyes, it goes against everything that the party in government preached about prior to becoming the president, prior to taking over government. Can you honestly sit here today and say that as a party that is in government, you have delivered to the expectations of the Zambian people?
That's a good question, and I'm glad that you realize that there are daily tabloids, including other newspapers, have not given prominence to this particular story, but obviously that is according to their editorial opinion. We cannot decide how they should write. But the point is that, for starters, nobody can glorify the 3 hours of load shedding, not even the UPND. And no sane leadership can deliberately decide to give citizens 3 hours of electricity supply. Now, according to the credible information that the media team obtained from ZESCO, because I knew that this would come through, we obtained this information from ZESCO, and allow me to just run through quickly. The credible information that these 3 hours, sometimes due to a number of factors such as vandalism or technical faults, sometimes you find that where some people would need the 3 hours, they would not get it. Okay. The next point is that one of the things that are standing out as the reason for this particular decision is the water levels again. And that's why you saw the other week we were engaging Zimbabwe to ask for some more water bodies so that we could generate a certain reasonable amount of electricity. Now, it's important for me to also mention that what they are saying at flat line, according to them, flat line, we're supposed to be generating about 350 megawatts to maintain the status quo before they announced this new timetable. Now, we are only getting from that Kariba dam about 250 megawatts instead of 350 megawatts because of the water levels that have gone down on the Zambian side. As you know, that this is a shared water between Zambia and Zimbabwe. So now they have recommended 250 megawatts, which has culminated into the problem that we have. The system there, when all the 6 machines are fully operational at full capacity, all the 6 machines at Kariba Dam, to generate 1,080 megawatts. The case in point that we are talking about. Now, the experts have also suggested that initially this particular system was actually developed to generate less than that amount. Now, Kafue is supposed to be generating 990 megawatts. Then Kafue Gorge, 750 megawatts. Then you have Iteztezi, 120 megawatts. Now, the challenge that we have today, which is one of the things that are coming out, is that the customer base has also changed over time. It used to be 1.3 million for the domestic customer base. Today, we stand at 1.420 million. So, potentially what should have happened, we needed to add an extra 350 arising from the increased domestic customer base. Now, I should further mention that if we are to ask for a solution, so far there are 2 key issues that the UPND believes could be provided as a lasting solution. Citizens do not want us to obviously talk about historical issues, but they are mostly important so that we appreciate where we're coming from.
I think they know
now,
what those historical
now, it's very important to shape the discourse that you are basically talking about a power utility company that was found highly indebted. Okay, about 1.6 billion, and over $1 billion is paid back. So, forecasting, where are we headed to? Because obviously that's what people would want to hear. Where are we headed to? In anticipation for a solution which is long term, we have to bite the bullet. It is expected that the groundbreaking ceremony that was done at Mamba Corridors, it is a huge plant that does not depend on solar. This is expected to end next year. I'm talking about power generation next year around July. Though the initial plan was to bring it to complete operation in August. So they want to make sure that it's operational around July. Mamba Corridor has produced 300 megawatts. This particular initiative that is under construction will produce an extra 300 megawatts to bring the total to 600 megawatts. Now, there is also another project that is coming up, because I'm giving a framework of ideas that we believe over time will respond to the challenges that we face, because we cannot obviously be crying over water every time. We need to go for green energy, smart energy. So in Sinazongwe, again, due to policy reviews, which allow for the private players to be part of this particular initiative, then you have an offtake agreement with ZESCO. 600 megawatts in Sinazongwe, which will be a coal mine, to not be dependent on electricity. This will be done by one of group. Then you have also a groundbreaking ceremony in Chipata West. This is Chipata West, 100 megawatts, right in Chipata. Then you have in Ndola 16 megawatts. Then you have Chadiza West, which will give us 2.5 megawatts. But this one will not be connected to the national grid. It will be distributed directly to the community. Now, the government also proposed green cities, which are somewhere around 12. So Eastern Province will have green cities, such as this one that I'm talking about, where you don't need to get to the national grid in order to have power supply. They will do the generation and to go straight to the community. Then on Friday, there is another groundbreaking ceremony in Mumbwa, where we envisage a 200 megawatts, but this is under what they are calling IPP, or Independent Power Producer, which has an MOU with ZESCO. Now, I wish to mention at this juncture that the problem of power cannot be resolved overnight without the interconnectors. The interconnectors that ZESCO has been talking about, such as the one into Tanzania, as I rightly indicated during my preamble, that Tanzania last year, for example, had excess power, which we should have tapped into, but we could not because there is no connection. ZESCO. So with government embarking on this project, which is underway, it is expected that should we be confronted in future with such a huge problem, then we should be able to import power.
Here's what worries me. And then thank you, by the way, for listing all these little investments. I've been hearing this for a while now, and I'm not the only one. I'm sure anyone who's listening will say the same thing that I'm saying, that, you know what, Luchi, we've been hearing this for at least a year now. The president, I thought it was interesting that he admitted that the government has failed when it comes to energy, that there's been an abject failure by the government when it comes to energy. These solutions that you talk about, they're not here, they're not now. We've been hearing this for 3 years.
They are here. So you saw we commissioned.
Well, they're not here. We've got 3 hours of electricity.
I'm coming.
They're not here.
I'll give you an example of 2019. Okay? When we had load shedding coming from a minor, what you may refer to as a minor drought, what were the circumstances? At that time, industries and manufacturing sectors, which demand a lot of power than domestic consumers, had collapsed. All things being equal, my brother, you need to be made to understand that the mining sector that has been revamped requires power. The manufacturing sector, you are seeing almost on a weekly basis, the president commissioning and ministers require power. What that means, based on the statistics that I earlier gave, is that consumption has gone up. You have a situation where there is a competition between investment in alternative source of energy and the emerging manufacturing sector. Just in 2 weeks, we had one plant, United Capital Fertilizer, being commissioned. We had another plant in Lusaka South where we found the manufacturing of starch and glucose being manufactured, and many more coming in those areas because of the policy framework that attracts investment, both domestic and foreign investment. Now, with the emergence of all these manufacturing sectors, you saw also in Kabwe, in Chibombo. In Chibombo, we are producing batteries, exporting to 8 countries. They are using power. That facility never used to exist, meaning there was no consumption that would require to manufacture batteries, as the case is. We are producing electric cables right in Chibombo, exporting to 8-9 countries. It's the same thing. We are now producing fertilizer, also exporting. We are now producing. We have started also embarked on a project of cholera vaccines manufacturing, and now you are hearing of big projects being set up for the manufacturing of, for putting up of pharmaceuticals.
That's well and good. That's well and
now,
good. But the reality still remains.
I want to nail it.
The reality still remains that I don't think I've ever lived in a country, and I've lived here for quite a while now, but I don't think I've ever lived in a country where the most, in terms of electricity, that I can see is 3 hours.
Yeah,
that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I'm coming. Yes, I agree with you. It's unacceptable. So I'm coming. So I'm saying, on one hand, you are investing. And the type of investment that you are putting up is not a plug and play kind of affair. It's an investment that you start now. And maybe you heard the president when he was addressing.
But shouldn't there be, sorry, Mark, shouldn't there have been, and hindsight is beautiful. Hindsight is wonderful. Because in hindsight, we can say there should have been a short term that can at least guarantee, residential customers at least 6 or 7, 8 hours consistently. There should have been a mid and a long-term plan. But unfortunately, there hasn't been short-term, and if it's there, it doesn't work. There hasn't been any mid-term. Again, if it's there, it doesn't work. All we're hearing is these very long-term projects. But in the meanwhile, you've got various ministers, including the Minister of Energy, who comes out constantly and says, "Oh, don't worry, load shedding will end by July." That doesn't help citizens.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, let me talk about short-term. Now, that's what I was saying. Historically, it's important for us to deal with certain issues that connect to a modern conversation. I should have also delved into indicating that as a result of how much debt ZESCO had no bargaining power with any power utility company, because it was highly indebted. Now, it is now that it's having the bargaining power. I'll give you an example. When we went into Mozambique, we found that we were owing over $1 million. We wanted to import power for short term. But of course, we're importing now. But to what extent? You find that ZESCO of South Africa and also another power utility company in Mozambique can only export their power maybe between 22 hours up to 06, because that's when they believe their load there, the demand for power goes down. Now, the biggest challenge that you have, that's why the president said, when he says we have failed, he said we have failed for 60 years. We should have done something alternative, especially when the world started discussing climate change. Now, the solutions that are coming are solutions that should have come many years ago. That is what the president is trying to say. Had they come many years ago, we wouldn't have been where we are today. That's why you are seeing a situation where you open up 100 megawatt solar plant, it's a drop in the ocean. You would think it's not adding to anything because the deficit is huge. And when the deficit is huge, you discover that you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice, Luchi, between supplying the mining sector, which has expanded rapidly 24/7, and supplying a domestic consumer. Because then when you wake up and say, okay, let's compare it to 2019, when the mining sector was dead completely, it means the situation would have been worse off than the way it is. Had the consumption been the way it is today, of domestic alone, over 1.4 million. You get to corporate, it is something else. Because every day you're talking about new investment in the manufacturing sector. Meaning, had these companies emerged in 2019, you could have had zero supply. That when you hear people say, you are in a competition in terms of consumption between the domestic consumers who are listening to the radio and the jobs that their children are getting in the mines, plus the revenue that you are getting from the proceeds that are being exported after mining, to improve the kwacha so that we can further push the cost of the economy down over time. Now, I agree with you. It's unacceptable to have 3 hours load shedding. But then what are some of the long-term, short-term measures that government had put in place? They are called short-term because they are not sustainable. People want short-term measures to be used as long-term measures. It cannot work anywhere. What are those short-term measures? You purchase generators that gobble thousands of liters in 1 week. Managing them, maybe ZESCO. Only for strategic business areas to sustain SMEs so that people can earn a living. If they are short-term, from the time load shedding started, they should no longer be there.
But they're still there.
Now I'm saying, if they're short-term,
yes, but they're still there.
They should
so they're not short-term.
Now, meaning that already, that's what I'm telling you, that already is at a government cost. For a power utility company that was highly indebted, owing over 1.6 billion US dollars, not having any bargaining power today as we speak. Here are some other short-term measures that they thought they should bring, but the obviously installation will have to be done, such as putting in place the smart cities. You don't need to push into the national grid. You see, plug and play. you immediately, like this Chadiza West, the 2.5 megawatts, which is supposed to be ready, done by April. This particular initiative. The next one is that part of the MOU that ZESCO undertook with China Power was to install solar plants on households, which is a process. But then what is the priority? The priority is that people want more power to be generated. And it is gratifying that as we are speaking, the President was addressing Parliament. He was talking about reducing the time for installation of solar plants to 7 months ahead of time.
Okay, can I ask? Okay,
so
let me ask.
That's
sorry,
the process.
Let me ask the most basic question here. Otherwise, you just keep telling us about all the plans that you have. Is there any assurance that the UPND that is in government today can give to citizens to say that by this time, the hope is, and we're not even looking at rain alone, but we're hoping that we understand the population is growing, but we are hoping that by X amount of time, that we will will be able to give citizens. Yeah,
so here's a projection.
At least 20 hours of electricity.
Here's a projection. The projection based on solar installations.
Okay.
A number of them are getting complete starting from April, May, June, July. Next year.
April next year.
I was just giving an example of Chadiza, scheduled to be done by April. Then the next one, Chipata West, 100 megawatts, scheduled to be done around June. Okay, then you also have most of these by June, of course, and then you have also the other one has already been connected. Okay, so now and this should be the first one, the Chisamba one, and the one that was recently commissioned by the minister. So you have all these, but they are done in a graduating manner. No one will play magic. Even those that are critical of government today, none of them will give you a solution better than what we are offering now. It may sound like a mere conversation, but they are also aware that they are commissioning projects and they are going on. These are not promises. They are facilities that are being undertaken. You remember that when during the commissioning of United Capital Fertilizer, the other project that was underway there is a plant for power generation. So these are things that journalists saw with their eyes. Citizens were able to see for those that were streaming or covering. So this is not a conversation that you have, a prolonged conversation that we have. We're talking about things that are being actualized. So we can safely indicate that we cannot do away with these very important long-term programs just because we have a challenge today.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah, welcome.
And I'm really curious about this. This is something that had bugged my mind. So there was a point when the president mentioned that it's unfair that low-income households should be very affected by electricity, and he said, "Listen, you need to find a way." ZESCO then found a way of giving them 10 hours of electricity. Now that confused me a little because I thought to myself, but if you're giving a certain areas 10 hours of electricity, what are you doing to the grid, to the rest of the grid? So now this is from Brian. Brian says, this idea by the corporation to supply 10 hours of power to selected high-density areas, while other areas are being supplied less than 3 hours.
Connections, they use too much power. But I was wrong. After engaging experts from ZESCO, they said, actually, it's the other way around. If you go to Kablonga, you're using more power because you have a lot of equipment that are running on electricity, which they don't have in those areas. Then secondly, most of those do not have white-collar jobs as you think. It's a hand-to-mouth kind of affair. You find they're running a popping machine, they're running a saloon, and that their life starts and ends there. So it is an affirmative action that has been undertaken by government, and which is permissible even at law. And when you're talking about positive discrimination, where you take certain decisions in order to deal with a particular gap under the circumstances which we've been confronted with. We live with the poor in society, and I agree with him, and I understand his pain that all of us need power. But this is the background of the decision.
Okay. Yeah. You may not be able to answer this, but and this is for my friends at ZESCO who are listening. I think it would be nice for them to be able to say just how much power is being consumed in these 20 high-density areas.
Yeah.
How much electricity is actually being consumed?
Yeah.
Because then there's an argument here to be made, Mark, that we're in 3 hours of electricity because you've given people 10 hours of electricity.
No.
There's an argument you can make.
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
But we have not been given
until
we
get
the
the numbers.
Yeah, the
you can make that argument.
Maybe ZESCO will have, since we have another engagement as a media team with ZESCO with the more experts ranging from civil engineers, electric engineers, and those that are specialized in hydro issues, as we did at Mulungushi International Conference Center. Certain things obviously that are quite detailed and technical will have to be dealt with at that platform. Okay. But I should mention that the only reason that we have been given by ZESCO, as we mentioned, that as a media team, we engage institutions so that we can get a position that cannot be disputed unnecessarily over time. But then they told us that the only reason that we have today is an issue of water levels. They have not advanced a reason because they were able, when we were generating at a certain level, to give us acceptable hours. But with the change in terms of water levels, they are saying they have decided to change. In the meantime, it also saves the equipment itself. And they're saying we should have, under normal circumstances, been getting at least 350 megawatts. Now, for my mother who is listening from Chibolia, what are these megawatts we are discussing? Just to give again a position given to me by one of the electricians there, the engineers, Engineer Kaisala, was that, for example, Ruapula alone, Ruapula at maximum may maybe use 15 megawatts. So when you say we have a deficit of 150 megawatts, it means Ruapula, northern, eastern would be covered by that. But that does not go in a straight line. According to ZESCO, the generation of power supply fluctuates. And this is triggered by a number of factors. It's not consistent. It will be fluctuating. So we cannot go beyond, obviously, what we have been given as a reason for now. I acknowledge the assumption that perhaps it could be that others are getting more. That's why we're getting less. But that is not the position that we have been given so far. Okay. And the position of water makes a lot of sense for those people that have had time to visit the areas where electricity is generated. Okay.
Here's a question that is very is intertwined. This is from there's no name here, but somebody says, please ask Mark why we have money for Bill 7, or maybe let me rephrase it, why we have money for the constitutional amendment and not immediate funds to import power. Basically, I don't think ZESCO will yield anything meaningful supply-wise as long as politics is involved. So a line of thought that says that you're using money where you shouldn't be using it. In a venture such as constitutional
my mind says me, well, we're given how much money we spend per hour by ZESCO. It's millions of kwacha. It's a lot of money. It's not a joke. Perhaps what you could be talking about is highly negligible. You may just apply for 1 hour and it stops. It's done. It's a lot of money that is used to import. And then ZESCO, in that meeting that we had, which was an engagement program at Mulungushi, told us how much they were importing. Over 200 megawatts. Okay? And then because at that time, we found that ZESCO were exporting about over 500 megawatts. So government had to recall almost everything. And only remained with about 105, somewhere thereabout. Okay? Because we found that there was a contract already. So we had to recall all this in order to save the growing industry, the growing manufacturing sector, and also to respond to some of the challenges that people have. But from whatever angle we look at it, we are in agreement with citizens. It is a painful experience. No one can celebrate what is going on. But this is something that is beyond us because it's a natural occurrence. And we don't we messed up over the years. That's what the president is trying to say. We invested so much in hydropower stations. As a result, we are paying heavily. Now, to resolve a problem of 60 years, my brother, will never be an overnight decision.
It will take time.
So we are resolving a problem that was not done in 60 years. We want to have this resolved overnight.
When I said to you, I said hindsight is a wonderful thing. In hindsight, do you think that you should have stopped the exporting of power early?
Well, I should be very clear, borrowing the words of ZESCO. that they would only make such a decision where they realize that there is a serious deficit and they had to make a decision anyway. But I should also hasten to mention that part of the problem. I'm coming.
We should have made these projections. It was pretty evident that we were going into a drought, and that's why I'm saying hindsight is a wonderful thing, because the projections were there that would have been going into a drought.
Now,
why is it that again in hindsight, why is it that there was a bit of slow movement? To reduce the export of power, knowing fully well the projections that were there.
Now, here is the biggest problem, again, of 60 years. We have no storage as a country. That's the biggest problem. We have no storage. Even if we cut earlier, it wasn't going to change anything. And this is a problem of over 60 years. By now, we should have had storage. Now, this is why when we import power at 22 to 06, whether people have used it or not, sometimes it may be immaterial. People sometimes think that when power is not used, it sits somewhere. It is stored. The biggest problem that we've had is storage. I'll give you an example. We will have a situation where our national grid can be used by others, maybe ZESCO exporting to DRC. They will just check whether there is room to export the quantity of power that they want to export, and then it goes. So under the circumstances, what would save us is importing. Now, importation has a limit. Even if you had a lot of money for that one who said, they will not give us more than what they're giving us now. In other words, what we are importing is only what ESCOM and the power utility company in Mozambique are able to release. In other words, even if we gave them too much money, they have no capacity to release that much. Because they told us that Zambia for a very long time has been a net exporter. In other words, we have been exporting to them for many years. Because Zambia at peak, we needed to have, at peak hour, we need to have about 1,700 megawatts. Where you have a deficit sometimes which is close to 1,000. That's why the president is talking about solar projects, 1,000. And this is not, like we have been saying, this is not a Zambian problem. It's a climate change issue. That's why presidents in Africa met in Tanzania to discuss energy, this problem. And part of the things on the table was an issue of the Southern Power Pool.
Okay, let me take a little break for news. We'll be back very shortly. This is Tuesday edition of Let the People Talk. We'll be back shortly.
Phoenix FM, 89.3 in the Copperbelt. The community news is brought to you with the compliments of Zamtel. Zamtel, come home. The headlines: a man found dead with multiple head wounds in Chadiza. And Masebo engages chiefs to boost land access for Zambians. With the community news, I am Paddy Mugando. A 61-year-old man from Mwai Farms in Zingalume Chiefdom of Chadiza district in the Eastern Province has been found dead with 6 deep cuts to his head. Eastern Province Police Chief Robertson Mwemba confirmed, identifying the deceased as Faxon Piri, who went on a drinking spree on the 1st of November and never returned home, prompting his son, Gerald Piri, to report him missing. He was last seen around 16 hours heading to Chimwele village for drinking, after briefly stopping at his son-in-law, Thomas Mbewe's house at Kapaza Farm. Piri's body was discovered the following morning on the 2nd of November along the Msokosera Chiseba Road in Zingalume Chiefdom, and the body lying face up with blood clots on the face and 6 deep wounds on the skull, suggesting an axe may have been used. At the scene, investigators also recovered a sealed bottle of ice spirit beer and the deceased's mobile phone. The body has been taken to Chadiza District Hospital mortuary for post-mortem examination. However, no arrests have been made and police investigations are ongoing. Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Sylvia Masebo, says her ministry is working closely with traditional leaders to make land available for residential and commercial farming to ordinary citizens. Ms. Masebo expressed satisfaction that 99% of traditional leaders are willing to allocate land for productive use. She made the remarks during a visit to Copperbelt Province Minister Elisha Matambo in Ndola while launching the issuance of title deeds to residents of the Chatete area area in Kitwe. Ms. Masebo disclosed that government plans to provide additional resources to the Lands Tribunal to efficiently resolve land disputes and reduce court proceedings. And Copperbelt Province Minister Elisha Matambo highlighted ongoing land issues in the province and called on the ministry to continue assisting in their resolution. Turn to the community news, the headlines once again. Man found dead with multiple head wounds in Chadiza. And Masebo engages chiefs to boost land access for Zambians. And the community news, keep listening to Let the People Talk.
The community news was brought to you with the compliments of Zamtel. Zamtel, come home.
Imagine if you could get all the data you want for uninterrupted browsing in the palm of your hands. Well, you can stop imagining, because for just 28 kwacha, new Zamtel customers get 7 days of pure unlimited data. It's non-stop streaming, scrolling, sharing, all without limits. Plug into Zamtel and enjoy your data lifestyle. Come home to unlimited data for days. Simply dial *117 hash. Terms and conditions apply.
Phoenix FM, 99.9 in Kabwe.
It's 10:05. Welcome back to Let the People Talk. Our guest on the program this morning, Mr. Mark Simuuwe, is the media director for the UPND. There was a question. This is why I go to the phone lines. There's a question in here. It's very interesting. This is from somebody called Harvey G. So Harvey G says, we're busy. We're in our next budget. CDF has once again increased. Why can't we channel the money to electricity, as that's a national disaster which needs emergency attention? So he's making the case that rather than putting money towards CDF, maybe that money should go towards yeah.
So now in answering him, the projects we are discussing are being financed. Okay, so they are not being disturbed by the funding towards CDF. They are being financed. The challenge is not that we are not doing anything. The challenge is when these are going to be complete and when the situation will normalize. That should be the argument. Right now, my brother, I believe that's a brother, these projects are ongoing. Except the difference is that they are not a kind of a plug and play where you just put on the socket and turn on. No. They involve installation, it's construction. So when you start constructing, the engineers are saying this project takes 6 months, and it is the expertise advice that now enables government to make a projection, because then they'll be given and said this project's installation takes 8 months, looking at the terrain. So it will be ready this period. This next period, this project will be ready by December. So it's not that there is nothing going on. I think this should be made very clear that the projects are going on. These ones I'm talking about. So you heard that another project, the one that was done in Samba, that was phase 1. Phase 2 is coming. I think the goal is to come up with 300 megawatts around the same area. So 100 megawatts has been done. So in other words, it's an ongoing project. The Mamba project I'm talking about, construction already started. There was a groundbreaking ceremony close to about a year ago. So this will culminate into the production of an extra 300 megawatts. Now, Lusaka province alone at peak hour, we are told uses about between 500 and 600 megawatts at peak hour. Now, if Mamba Quarries alone will produce 600 megawatts, that is not going to Lusaka alone. You find that this is a private company. ZESCO may have an offtake agreement to buy off power, which at a very high cost, which they have to sell to a consumer who is calling now at a lower cost, subsidized. In other words, ZESCO is buying power at a higher cost and selling it cheaply, even the imported one, because Zambia has the lowest tariffs for consumers. Then I also wish to mention, Luchi, that domestic consumers have no capacity to run ZESCO. If we said, can we switch off corporate or commercial consumers, we have no capacity to finance ZESCO, because we cannot pay the tariffs that these mines are paying in order to sustain ZESCO. The millions of US dollars of importing power, citizens can't pay. They have no capacity. I gave you the number of citizens that have been connected. On an annual basis, my brother, in Zambia, we are connecting 70,000 to 75,000 new residential customers. With those meager to 200, 300 kwacha. versus millions you want to import in 1 hour. So those are realities. But then, we are not complaining about importing. The point is that where we are supposed to import from, they have a limit to the amount of power they can export. They can release to Zambia. That's number one. Number two, where else we can turn to import in other countries, we are not connected to them. So what has government done? They have embarked on a project which is running now, because these are thousands of kilometers, to make sure that we are connected to those countries, so that when we have limited supply from where we are importing today, we can turn to other countries like in East Africa. And this is the narrative that government is trying to bring out. If we give ourselves time to listen that this is what government is doing, then we will know that these are projects that take over time. What we are saying, short-term projects, they are very expensive. They must be stopped and abandoned over time.
Okay. You're 10 months away from an election. Then I'll go to the phone line shortly. But you're 10 months away from an election. When I don't know, when was the last time you went through your own manifesto as a party?
We discuss our manifesto every time.
Right.
When you hear us talk about achievements, that all tied to the manifesto.
When you tick the boxes in this manifesto, how many ticks are there?
Yeah, my friend, you even get it wrong. You can't even discuss. Right now, I was challenging all our speakers in government. I was telling them right now, none of the speakers can finish discussing achievements in one interview. We can spend the whole day. Because the president is commissioning projects almost every day. Almost every week there's something going on. I'll give you an example. We said we shall provide free education. We tick. We said we shall ensure that civil servants are paid on time. We tick. There's been no go-slow in the civil service. We have to be given 100% mark. We said we shall run public institutions better and not have unrest over money. CBO UNZA. This time we think students are absent because they have meal allowances. We told them we'll reinstate. We told Tazama workers that we'll give you your dues. They were given. We told Zambians that we shall revamp the mining sector. People said we were lying. The moment they saw the mining sector being revamped, some went to court to try to block investment because they knew that we were getting somewhere. But then we are there. And we said, when we have invested in the mining sector and it has grown, we can now export to attract forex to better address our suffering kwacha. And we are now getting the trickle-down effects of our exports. Whoever knew that Zambia would again start exporting batteries? Whoever knew that Zambia would again start exporting fertilizer? Because that was our conversation. Some people said, you said you'll be producing fertilizer with it. Where is it? And now, where are we heading to? We will soon be heading to having a refinery in Ndola to be able to refine the crude which is found in Angola, where we have shares there. You have signed a lot of market access agreements for the farmers to export things, but it takes time for people to learn the art. But slowly some are learning. The president, oftentimes, I'm happy we are interviewing him here over data restructuring. And the question, I don't know that you're able to retrieve some of those interviews. You asked him a question that you're saying debt restructuring. What is debt restructuring? He answered. Then you said, but again you are borrowing and yet you are discouraging borrowing. Then he told you that you have to clear the existing bad debt by changing the terms of reference. I'm sure you remember that interview.
Yes.
It has stuck to my mind.
Yes.
And you also went and said, your friends are saying you have no capacity to restructure the debt. It's very difficult. Zambia is the only country under the G20 framework to have succeeded in debt restructuring. It's a record that we are proud of as a country. People are saying, how has that helped us? I want to tell you, my brother, that the situation could have been very bad. All these investors that are coming in the mining sector, we are not going to accept to come, because no investor wants to go and invest in a country that is highly indebted, because there will be no policy consistency. The government to from time to time be changing policies in order to get the much needed revenue at all cost, thereby squeezing the businesses that exist. So now the president is saying, let us also encourage more citizens to do business by introducing the Ministry of SMEs. Today as we speak, we have a lot of businesses that are running, local businesses. And now, are you not surprised that in the 2026 national budget, we were proudly able to announce and say, for imported steel materials and PVC, we are imposing certain tariffs. The idea is to support local manufacturing, the local manufacturing sector, meaning we are now able to supply ourselves the steel. We have grown the industry to the satisfaction of the demand. Now, all these things put together, obviously are taking us somewhere. I've heard many citizens say the truth, and they are saying, you have done very well. Even as recent as yesterday, you've done very well. But the biggest problem that you have is load shedding. And I've agreed with them. And that's what people are saying. When you talk to them, you open, you can start any conversation. Even when you're talking about Tanzania, even on your page there, you see them saying, stop talking about Tanzania, tell us about load shedding. That's the only thing they're talking about. So now we have to make a decision. For those we've seen online who are saying, load shedding is bad, we're voting you out. They have to make a decision. Voting out UPND is putting an end to free education, because our friends didn't know how we're going to find the money. Voting out UPND is scrapping off meal allowances, which have been extended to all public universities. Voting out UPND is taking back the country, taking back the country to importing fertilizer. It means shutting down institutions such as Ministry of SMEs that are providing credit facilities for citizens and grants. Our colleagues don't know the magic that we have played on CDF and where money has come from, because when they were criticizing UPND, they were saying, where will he get the money from? He's lying. Now that we have grown the tax base to be able to finance our own activities, we have cooperating partners coming on board. Already, the 2026 national budget will be financed by the Zambian people, by ourselves, over 80% of it, which has sent shivers to many African states. That then we are nearing to being self-sustaining as a country.
Yeah. So the reason I was asking you about just
so now if you have to tick,
the reason I was asking you,
95% now.
Okay. The reason I was asking you about when was the last time you went through the manifesto is I often go through it. There's an argument that I actually go through it more than some members of the UPND, because it's part of my job. When I have you guys in to say, okay, in your manifesto you say that you will create 500,000 jobs in 5 years. Have you managed to do this? In your manifesto, you talk about quality education, making sure that everybody is in school. It's free education. You've done that. Your manifesto talks about delivering affordable and clean energy through ambitious renewable energy investment plan that will improve energy mix so that we don't have to worry on climate shocks. Have you done this, or were you forced to do this? And that's why I asked the question. That when you go through your manifesto, can you sit here and say, you know what, there are areas that we haven't done well, and there are some areas that we've done massively well?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very fair question. So as we have been discussing, okay, even in areas where you believe we may not have done earlier than expected, you discover that something is being done, okay? Now, let me indicate that borrowing the list that you are bringing out, I want to quickly get to...
and there are many more, by the way.
Yes.
There are many more. I can give you an example. When you talk about electoral reforms, one of the things that's in the manifesto is establish an independent electoral commission. Selection of commissioners will no longer be at the discretion of the sitting president. I'm not sure whether that's been done. When you look at the public order, this is all in just governance. Reform the Public Order Act, prevent its abuse. Again, where the elections are just 12 months away or under 12 months away. Again, you can make the argument that we have seen the revamped Public Order Act. There is still abuse. Opposition members claim that they can't meet up. Half the time they're being arrested for meeting up. So when I ask the question about the manifesto, that's what I mean.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me come to the specific issues that you have raised. The Electoral Process Act is being amended, you know that.
It's for a while.
Yeah, but it's a process.
Yeah, 4 years.
It's not enough to just
4 years.
enact a law. Of course, the constitutional mandate for legislating is when Parliament has its life. So there's no early, there's no mid, there's no late. So that is the position of the law.
Okay.
Now, the next point is that when we talk about the Public Order Act, this is something that we've also been looking at. So you can discover that we are within our constitutional mandate. At the close of the 5 years, let us have a conversation. Let me go straight and deal with the jobs. We may even be more than that, because it's both private and government. We may even be, because just education sector alone, my brother, is 42,000. You were hearing of jobs Just this one we're talking about, the United Capital Fertilizer, about 5,000. The other one moving to 10,000 projection. Go to the mining sector, put it together. They are not small numbers. On an annual basis, we are recruiting both in the private, as at 2023, at the close of 2023, in the manufacturing sector alone, we had over 13,000 jobs. We may have even come close or beyond. You go to immigration. We were not seeing advocates in the for local government mostly. Today we have legal counsel, lawyers in local authorities employed by the government. Those are jobs. Some of the indirect jobs are through SMEs. When you hear us say 200,000 youths have graduated from vocational training colleges and skills training, a number of them are working on their own. We've created jobs. These perhaps over 500,000 desks you'd be talking about across the country are manufactured by Zambians who have been given jobs indirectly by training them in skills training, and now they're able to sustain themselves. So the numbers are huge. Health sector, over 18,000. Defense, put all of everything together, maybe over 8,000. Already, when you talk about government alone, you're talking about over 150,000. Now you get to the private sector. You can actually go to sector by sector. Tourism sector. The moment you heard that we have increased on the number of tourists from 500,000 on an annual basis to over 2 million, it basically means those in the hospitality industry need workers to attend to the tourists. That's why you're finding hotels full, which were empty. So if you go around Lusaka, most of the time you find hotel rooms are full. Tourists, more than 2 million. Meaning they need where to sleep. If they need where to sleep, they need to be serviced in terms of human resource, waiters, and so on and so forth. And then you look at the contribution from the Ministry of Tourism, the contribution, you find it has gone back to the way it used to be. What did the president do next? To engage his colleagues in the region to open direct flights after relaxing visa conditions, to allow for more flights into Lusaka. I think we're around 14, 15 flights. And because of goodwill and policies, the moment HH was sworn in, a direct flight was established between Lusaka and Istanbul. Now we're being told Moscow is on the way. They want a direct flight from Moscow to Lusaka. You have, for many years, a direct flight into Uganda, Entebbe. And now, when the economy is growing, this is how you tell. You have an influx of people in and out. An airline which was domestic in nature suddenly just woke up and started servicing international flights, Proflight. It's an indication. The economy from negative 2.7 to over 5.8%. There is no economy that ever improved when it is in negatives. You must first of all bring it to 1, then it starts growing. That's where we are in a very short period. Today, as we speak, the international community is shocked how we've come out of the drought with a bumper harvest so soon.
Okay.
When our friends are still grappling with it.
Okay.
So, other things that you raised.
Let me go to the phone lines. Let me go to the phone lines. We'll come back. I know people will kill me that I haven't taken calls. So let's go to the phone lines. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. What's your name?
Mr. Ntele.
Yes, Mr. Ntele.
Yeah. Good morning. Media spokesperson. Now, quick one. I wanted to find out from this man. People, they have been complaining. I don't know when are you going to resolve the issue of electricity, because one of the ministers says by December we shall have electricity sorted out. They're saying, no, we have to give those high-density electricity. Why are they supposed to segregate? Is it not the way of the campaigning? Now, the issue of these MPs now, they are just busy going around. I don't know, being a media spokesperson, these people who are pleading to us now, they are coming to us, trying to make confusion. Some of these things, are they going to be adopted or are going to go another way? So those are the issues, especially in terms of
electricity. May have joined a bit late. I know we handled the electricity angle much earlier on, but I'll let you respond to the other two, questions on adoptions and farmers. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. What's your name?
Good morning, Mr. Simuuwe.
Morning, sir.
What's your name? What's your name?
This is Mr. Kamkwamba calling from.
Kamkwamba. Go ahead, sir.
Yes. I think, sir, things are very bad on the ground. I think you should do up your game because during campaigns, the UPND promised a lot of things, including this same load shedding we are going through. We were told once the president is in power, he had already some solutions. But to our surprise, up to now we are still grappling with the same problems. So, sir, you should convey this message to the president to say, on the ground things are bad, and if nothing is done, I don't see the president retaining his seat. Thank you very much.
Mr. Kamukwamba, thank you very much. So he says on the ground. Okay. I guess we're all on the ground then. 2268410 0978 895 895. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Proud. Go ahead.
Good morning, Honorable Simuuwe.
Morning, Proud.
For example, I want to start the issue of our president to go to Tanzania. Zambia got a relationship with Tanzania with all embassies. President has got a right. As long as you are not in a relationship, you can't go. For example, these people from opposition, they've been congratulated Putin when he went and opposed. After opposition, Selecting Barra died. They have congratulated him. But our president go to a president which is got a relation in Zambia, nothing wrong. We all sit in the road shedding, including our penetrators. President Hakainde is aware. We said, because of we got water now, we want to shift from water to go to solar. They had the issue of Miru Lucy. When you come to that, no one is feeling about Miru has been sorted. My appeal to people such as the people including these people are married in Capital City on the road, they should make it quick. The more department president, he wants this to be done. At the end, we move together. Including when you go to grass, they should cut the grass, bending a photo. Yeah. At the end, President Hakainde go to Calgary.
Yeah.
When you put out
proud. Thank you very much, Proud. 2268410 0978 895 895. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Morning, how are you, Mr. Moderator?
I'm okay, thank you, sir. What's your name?
My name is Philemon from Chiturika, Zambia.
Go ahead, Mr. Philemon.
Good morning, Honorable Mark Simuuwe.
Morning, Philemon.
Thank you. No, all is said, you have explained everything. Now to add on, you know, governance is about not domestic policy only. Governance is about domestic policy plus foreign policy. When the head of state goes to other countries, he's trying to fulfill foreign policy duties. You know, if you can recall, there was a time when Chiruba was invited to go and suppress Rangos, should be in Eastern whatever Congo there, and there was a bit of calmness there. So when the head of state is preaching peace in these neighboring countries, he has embarked on foreign policies. Hello?
Okay, Mr. Philemon, we can hear you. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, do you want to quickly respond, and then I'll take another batch of phone calls?
Yes, thank you very much. Let me start with Mr. Jerry. I think we've dealt with the issue of the high-density areas in the manner that ZESCO had intended to explain that, to the contrary, high-density areas don't consume much because they don't have the machinery that run on electricity as those, high-class area, if I may put them. And also issues of MPs that he raised going around. I think it is within their constitutional mandate, if they want to campaign, to begin appealing to electorates. After all, they are MPs because of you citizens. So obviously they do not want to wait until it is too late. They should be allowed to speak to you. In terms of farmers, I remember I had an opportunity to engage with the Secretary to Treasury. This is something that has already started taking place. I think payments have since commenced. Then I should further get to, is it Kamukwamba?
Yes.
Where I think things are bad on the ground. I think to be very fair with each other, we need to separate challenges from successes. So when you say things are bad, I will ask them, but what about education? Is it bad? They will say, no, it's not bad. I will say, what about meal allowances for students? They will say it's not bad. Well, I say, what about CDF? They will say it's not bad. How is it that we are getting cash for work and thousands of citizens are benefiting? They will say it's not bad. What about peace? We don't have machetes and registered guns. They'll say, no, it's not bad. What about issues that relate to jobs that were lost in the mines? They'll say that is the way to go. They will agree with us. What about us producing and exporting batteries? Because those that are exporting batteries, they are not robots. Zambians have got jobs there. They are working and they are taxpayers. What about debt restructuring? And we are now able to finance our own budget. Is it bad? They'll say that's bad. So what they will consider to be bad, perhaps they will start talking about issues relating to electricity. And we are agreed that it is very difficult to survive without electricity. When you say the president had promised that he would do something, I'm saying we are resolving a problem of 60 years. And what is that problem? We need to invest in alternative sources of energy. Are we doing it? Yes. Are there projections on when these projects are supposed to be done? Yes, they are there. And this is a conversation that we've had. Is it something that we can do immediately? No. What is it that we can do immediately? Is importing. What is restricting us from importing a lot of power? The countries we are importing from have a limit. They don't have surplus. They don't have too much, in a way, to export to Zambia. They want something to use locally. So the only amount of power that electricity they can supply is what we are importing. So what do we do now that we are limited in terms of how much we can import? We need to look elsewhere. To look elsewhere, you do not send electricity by air. You need to connect cables so that they reach Tanzania, they reach East Africa, Uganda, Kenya, so that when our friends which are in desert areas who put up those infrastructure many years ago because they have no proper rainfall pattern can give us electricity. But how do they give us? We need that connector. That's what they're referring to, the interconnector. And then we need the southern power pool because it is the entire southern Africa that is almost facing challenges. Yeah. So now what our friends have done in countries like Mozambique is that they are allowing private sector players to be able to sell power. This is a similar law that has been, a policy that has been formulated in Zambia, where even private sector players can import electricity at a certain cost based on their agreement and sell to ZESCO. So we have Nalolo Power Plant and many other projects that are underway, under construction. People will be choked with the commissioning because without which we will not have this problem resolved. We just have to go green in terms of energy. And that's the way to go. Okay. You heard the president, when the president of Mozambique visited, he was talking about energy. It's the way to go. Okay.
Yeah. The two other questions. There was Proud essentially talking about things that we've already spoken about. Philemon talked about domestic policy plus foreign policy. We touched on this in the early part of our conversation. But I want to go back to Mr. Ntele because he thought there were two things that he mentioned. He mentioned farmers not being paid on time. Is there an update from the media team on what the issue is with farmers?
Yeah, we'll definitely be coming with an official documentation on the same, since we'll be notified that the process has already commenced, and some of them have been paid. Okay. So it's an ongoing process. Okay. The issue which we need to deal with also is that it's a huge bump harvest, and the announcement was not that the government should buy off everything as much as they are attempting. The announcement is that the president signs market access agreements. When the market is available, the government can now export, as the case is now. And already we've been advanced by DRC, colossal sums of money. So it is that particular project that has triggered the beginning of payments of farmers. Okay. So it's working well. Okay. Fertilizer distribution is working well ahead of time. I think it's already commenced, and much of it locally produced, which is very good for us.
Okay.
So in terms of farmers.
The second question from Mr. Ntele touched on adoption of MPs. Yeah.
What about it?
So I think he was trying to say that we're seeing a lot of people coming to say that we, vote for us. What's the story around
so the
adoption?
point is that,
I think there was a story a couple of weeks ago from Mr. Liswaniso, who was obviously here to clear the air, but I guess you're the media director, so it's a good you're here as well.
Yeah. So my brother, the issue is that it is not even a Liswaniso position. It is a National Management Committee position. We used the same formula in 2020, for your record, because in politics you must have strategies. First of all, from the Constitution of Zambia point of view, an independent candidate is one who is not sponsored by the party ticket, right? That is by description. They are not standing on the party ticket, and the UPND is simply living up to the Constitution of a definition of an independent candidate. So if we are saying the Constitution of Zambia, according to the Constitution of Zambia, one who is independent is not sponsored by the party, and then UPND does that, what is wrong with that? So we are being criticized for something that is in the Zambian Constitution, and UPND is saying we want to sponsor our members, independent members, as per Zambian Constitution. They are not on the party ticket.
Okay.
That's why they are called independent.
All right.
So UPND is basically aligning itself with what the Zambian Constitution says, and then we are being criticized for upholding the Constitution.
Okay.
Now, those who want to go independent, the party has made a position that, according to the Zambian Constitution, if you are independent, you're not sponsored by the party. So don't twist us to sponsor you. That's the message. Don't twist us to sponsor you, because an independent candidate is not sponsored by the party. Others made a mistake, like PF. They thought because certain members of parliament were not strong enough, but independent members of parliament were strong, they allowed them, and some of them were even given money to run. Here is the challenge, my brother, in politics. An independent member of parliament is not accountable to anybody. Maybe loosely to the electorates. They can decide what to support in parliament. As a result, I can confess to you that right now they have decided, almost all the 8 independent MPs have decided to work with UPND.
Okay.
Has PF gained? They have lost. Are there punitive measures that can be undertaken? Nothing. Okay. You can't punish an independent member of parliament because they are not accountable to you.
Okay. Let me go back to the phone lines. 2268410978895. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, let the people talk. Good morning, Mr. Simuuwe. Good morning, Mr.
What's your name, sir? What's your name, sir?
I'm calling you from within Osaka.
Okay, and your name?
Yeah, Collins.
Okay, Collins, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Simuuwe, if government hasn't been honest concerning on the electricity issue, no wonder whatever you do, I think you haven't been honest. That's why it's so difficult to follow, because just like the previous caller said, recently you had promised August, December, November, the electricity issue will stabilize. But up to now, it looks like we're just still waiting for the rain. Look at me, I for one, I come from Counter Square Stage 1. If you come right now, because you've been saying you are trying to privatize in the low density areas, come and see what is happening to Counter Square Stage 1. We have power zero from 23 hours to 02. What are you going to do around that time? Besides, if you come and see, we are doing door frenzy or doing what right now, we are not doing anything because of the power issue. And when you check on the other side, like there's Chadri there, they've got power 24 hours. You haven't been honest. Even the way you are sharing this, there's a so-called load shedding. I think it's not even giving hope. You are not giving hope completely. It looks like that's why I think those readings have said you failed on electricity. And this is even surprising, because if you are saying your economy is growing, it's growing how? How? Because this economy is being driven by with electricity. People are not working. How does the economy grow? I think you guys have to pull up, because it's so painful. You've put us in a misery. We've had droughts before, but it looks like this drought to you is something, I don't know which you've been using as an excuse. No. I think it's too much. It's too much on power. It's so painful.
Mr. Collins, thank you very much, Collins. Very passionate. Hello, good morning.
Yes, sir. Morning.
Morning. What's your name?
Lukulu Voice on the line.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Director. How are you?
Thank you. How are you, Lukulu Voice?
I'm okay. One of the things that we have left out, first of all, before anything else, we need to work in our information systems from the grassroots. Very important. The UPND have done a lot of things. Information is no longer in the compound, in the community. That's where we have a problem. Secondly, the environment which the UPND has improved to this level. That's why you can see the investment. You ever heard Kamkodi? Have you ever heard Chitango? Have you ever heard you go to intercity, you are stripped off of what you have put in? Have you ever heard there's a by-election somewhere and bloodshed all over? Sometimes the by-election has been happening and not all that's an effort. The problem that you are facing today is not a UPND on making problems. This is the problem of the PF. You remember that the PF had employment freeze. You remember. They were just replacing 2000. When the UPND came within, and you should be mindful that this is 4 years. 4 years, we are not yet into 5th year. They have employed a lot of civil servants. It has never happened. With this economy, very meager economy, they found things were destroyed. Debt structuring, the money was spent. Kazad, you remember that company which was given by the PF, they failed. But this UPND within 4 years, 94% of it gone. So all that is an effort to make sure that we are in a conducive environment done by the UPND, COSA, the PF. But the one who are crying almost high there, we went to Kariba in 2015 when the PF were in power. They were busy concentrating on hydro again. They could have started doing other energy mix at that time. What did they do when they found only 2 turbines working? They say, what of these others? No, if they all work, they will consume water because they were substandard corruption. You understand? So today now blame is coming to us. So let us tell our people make sure that we work on our information system. Thank you, Dr. Simuuwe.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lukulu Voice. Let me play your voice note.
Morning, Luchi, and morning, Mike. This is Bishop calling in from Kitwe, rather sending a message from Kitwe. I wanted to add on the issue of power. The UPND is showing very much inconsistency and incompetence in the way they are running things. The reason I say this is the minister has come up, I think, 2 or 3 times, saying power will stabilize by, I think it was July, it moved on to December. Now we're almost in December, and you're talking about 3 hours now. Look, we're not children, we are old people. It's not, okay, there are children in the country, but you talk like you're talking to kindergartens. Change things, every day you change, Now, how do you think we're going to trust you? And now you say the mines are the ones that pay my lots of mines. So does it mean you are concentrating on the mines? Will the miners vote for you alone? Who are the majorities? The miners or the people who stay in the houses? The ones you are giving 3 hours power to? To start with, the president himself, he's on record. I can see the clips around on Facebook when he was saying personally that in 1 year, 6 months, the power issue will be done with. It's now been almost, we're getting into the 5th year. We are in the 5th year, actually. So, it's an embarrassment to yourselves. And I wonder what you guys teach your children at home. Because you're supposed to set an example. But you keep lying. That's why they say lies have got short legs. You lie, I can guarantee you before the end of next week, someone else will come and say something different from what you're saying.
Yeah. Bishop, thank you for the voice note. Let me add one last call, then I'll let you respond. Hello, good morning. Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Yes, Mr. Elvis.
Thank you very much. Mr. Director, how are you?
Thank you. How are you, Mr. Elvis?
Thank you. My director, I'm one of the people who was privileged to go to Kariba, courtesy of ZESCO. I think it was in 2015. The same people who are complaining about the power today, we went together, both UPND callers. By then I was in the PF, and the PF callers. When we went there, we found that there was no water truly. There was no water there. We even entered into the turbines there, underground there. And what we saw, the machines were shut. Only 2 machines were working because of the water. The engineers explained to us why they have shut those machines. Today, the same people who were saying there is no water in Kariba, and they confessed that there is no water, why are they refusing today when the UPND is telling them that there is no water? These are the same people who went and saw that there was no water. This is the same situation we are having today. There's no water. But the government has got alternatives. They are opening up solar power plants. They are making sure that the Mamba is improved. Then these people are still disputing. I try to wonder, because for me, I know when you say there's no water, I've been there and I've experienced it. I don't know how people can refuse, because the last time they were saying there's no water, that's where there's the shedding. Today, they are disputing that water is there, you're exporting power. Even then, they were exporting power when the water was not there. Lastly, this government has done a lot, Bamaki. CDF has been increased from 1.6 million to 40 million.
Elvis, I'm going to stop you just because one of the things you said was that you're a UPND caller, PF caller. Let's allow at least those who don't align themselves to any political party to try and get through. Mark, very quickly, all 3 callers essentially saying the same thing. It's all about electricity. Yeah. So just let's combine all 3
exactly
into one.
So what's happening here is that all the callers are Zambians. Even those callers that are supporting the policies and are seeing the developments are affected. They are not saying they are having power. I think what is more important for us to indicate is that we need to tell each other the truth. And the truth from the bishops who said is that you don't want to listen to the truth. So here we are telling you, the minister made it very clear, because what citizens wanted was to be told that load shedding will come to an end. But then government said, Zambezi River Authority has indicated that they have to wait around August. It is themselves now that are recommending that this is how much you can use. You see the way that place operates, it's like you have water in a cup. Then you are pouring. The water level will never be the same. If you want, you can pour all of it, supply 24/7 and shut down the equipment, and there will be blackout the whole country for the next month. Obviously, that's not what people want to see. So when we are saying, by Bishop, that we are resolving a problem of 60 years, it is those solar plants you are seeing which you never used to see before. If this is why, if UPND never came into power, the situation could have been worse, because ZESCO was run down. I told you that it had no bargaining power. ZESCO owed Mamba Quarries about $500 million, which has been cleared by this government. In other words, before you embark on doing a project to resolve a situation permanently, government had to look for money to pay. Before we look at sorting out the cost of fuel, we found government was owing $700 million, equivalent to Eurobond. Before you talk about unpacking ZESCO so that it is viable to be able to run around the way it is running around, we found ZESCO was owing $1.6 billion. Now, if those things have been resolved, then we are good to go. And how are we good to go? We have demonstrated equipments that are being commissioned. And these are long-term solutions. They will not come overnight. And we are saying, if Bishop, decisions were properly made previously, would not have been where we are today. It has nothing to do with lies. It has everything to do with facts. We would not be talking about a solar plant, because we could have found a solar plant. We would not be talking about paying Mamba Quarries, because people could have responsibly paid that money. We would not have been talking about paying Mozambique millions of US dollars, because people who are effective, if they were effective enough, efficient, they could have paid that money. We were told we are owing another company overseas which wanted to bring electricity through kinetic energy. We were told we are owing it. Whichever direction you faced to look for help, to help Zambians, we were told they owe us. We went into the mines. We were completely grounded. We started paying citizens that you left unpaid, suppliers. That's what I'm saying. Had PF continued, the situation could have been worse because they failed to pay suppliers for over 5 years who have been cleared. Domestic suppliers paid by government. By last year, it was above 75% who were owed money. Some of them were supplying air. They were not paid. So the country was in ICU. To be able to even talk about free education, though today I'm happy they are running away from this, they will just talk about load shedding. And this is how we are closing in. That's what I'm saying. We are closing in. Once load shedding is dealt with, they will have nothing to talk about. Okay. Now, lastly, where you are saying that miners are they the only ones and what, it's lack of a proper, you need first of all to hold back. I've made it very clear that citizens cannot sustain ZESCO, but Bishop, you can't pay ZESCO unless you want us to, maybe for argument's sake, to tell you to be paying 1 million per month as a citizen for you to have power. You have no capacity, but they might have capacity to do that. ZESCO will shut down, if that's what you want to hear. Then the issue of supplying high density areas is not targeting necessarily household activities. There are businesses that have to be sustained in those areas. And in winding up, I want to remind you that school feeding program now, from around 84, we are now 106 getting to 116. Children who are going to school for free are now being given meals to eat for free. Cash for work, where do you think that money is coming from? That's not borrowed money. CDF is not borrowed money. We are running the country prudently. 200,000 youths graduating from vocational training in skills training for free, paying nothing. Yeah. So, in all fairness, I want to mention that the issue of load shedding is a problem. We must bite the bullet by identifying it as a problem, and not that government is doing nothing about it. That there are projects that are being done, some of them commissioned already, but they will not be done tomorrow or over time. So, government and the water utility institutions will continue making projections. Projections are part of running the country. Yeah. For example, Zambezi River Authority will make projections based on what they are told by the meteorological department about the rainfall pattern. That's how it works. Okay. Not that next, if the projection by meteorological department does not go accordingly, you can't get back to them and say you projected this. So these have been working on projection. Now we are saying, instead of us relying on guesswork and projections, let us now focus our energies towards the alternative source of energy, so that we are able to contain things without projections based on meteorological reports. Okay. And this is where we are getting the country to.
All right. Here's let me play you the last batch of voice notes, and then I'll pick up maybe 2 or 3 calls as well.
Good morning, Dochi. Good morning, Mr. Simuuwe. This is Joseph from Mondola. I'm so disappointed with the way Mr. Simuuwe is coming out. He's not facing, I mean, he has explained a lot of things there, but when it comes to energy issue, he's dodging away from the main point. Please, Mr. Simuuwe, you will lose nothing apart from just saying, in this area we have failed, and get the ideas from the people, or the people that you think can help you. Don't just say, we've done this, we've done that. Let us, the people, praise you. Okay? The same thing that your colleagues were doing, they are the same thing that we are still doing. Self-praise doesn't take anywhere. Let us, the people, praise you. And this issue of saying PF, that is why we voted for you. We knew those guys have messed up. That is why we voted for you. Stop using that thing of saying PF. Yes, they messed up. Can you clean the mess? We can't be staying 24 hours without power. For what? Even in them, there are this issue of drought, but you are just using it as a scapegoat. Agree that you have failed. Just say, yes, we have failed, and then we forge ahead. Thank you.
Hi, Luchi. Could Mark kindly help me understand the following? Out of the 32 million kwacha CDF allocation, the disbursement to these constituencies has ranged between 4 million and 8 million kwacha as of last month. What factors have contributed to the difficulty in releasing the full funds needed to complete the projects? Additionally, what is the rationale for increasing the allocation to 40 million kwacha when the current CDF disbursement already appears to be a challenge? Mumbachawa from Lusaka. Thank you.
Good morning, Radio Phoenix. My name is Amataki Kefas, calling you from Kito, Usakile in particular. Brother Mark Simuuwe, actually I voted for you guys, UPND. But for now, I'm very disappointed with the way you are running the government. I'll start with the toll gates. The toll gates are paying now the company called Moiki LN. That's a private company. We don't know the owners of that company. And yet these toll gates that are running from Kitwe to Lusaka, those three. And yet the construction of that road, the money came from NAPSA, which was $650 million to be specific. On that one, the president, Mr. HH, said the PF wanted to click a deal of about 1.5 billion, but I reduced it to $650 million. So $650 million plus the toll gates, the money, where is the money going for the toll gates? And then coming to the exploitation of the power, the president feels like he's, feeding for us. But and yet there is this middle company called, is it Canona or something? Is the one that is exporting power instead of letting ZESCO do that job. So how do we trust you? Can you explain how much Canona is making and how much the toll gates are making for the payments that you are making to Moik LN? I thank you.
All right, those are your three voice notes. Who do you want to start from?
Let me start with Joseph, okay, who claims, I know the voice. This is a CPF sympathizer, but that shouldn't be the point. So you have a situation where PF members are saying they voted for UPND.
It doesn't matter who
exactly. Now, so I'm coming.
He's just,
now I'm going along his line.
Okay.
Where he's saying we voted for you.
It doesn't matter.
So I want to respond to him. So we have PF members saying they voted for UPND.
It doesn't.
And they want to So using his line, then he says self-praise. I let people praise you. He's not telling us about free education, so I have to tell the people. If he's here to himself.
I think he's just reiterating what the president said.
I'm coming.
Yeah. I think he just wants you to say it as well.
Do you allow me
Because the president said we failed in energy.
Now here is...
You won't lose anything.
No, the president did not say we failed in energy. That's how they're picking the statement. We have failed for the past 6 years as a country in energy. Now here is the point. If you listen to the whole of his speech, we are doing programs that should have been done under normal circumstances 60 years ago.
Yes, but we have failed in 60 years.
So now, what we have started doing should have been a solution that should have been done a long time ago. For example, in 60 years, you never had 100 megawatts production because that 100 megawatts solar plant is among the 5 biggest in Africa. Where we are today. Now, we don't want to complain that they could not do it. We need to remind people, even in class, by Joseph, there's comparative analysis. When you give students questions, we tell them to compare economies, compare and contrast the UPND leadership in terms of the economy and the PF. Don't tell us not to compare. The next point that you are saying you are dodging, you must demonstrate where we are dodging, because we are telling you that there is a problem here. You created it this way, and this is how we are resolving it. The problem is that when people have been given answers like him on issues relating to solar plants that are being commissioned, they don't want to talk about it. So, part of the job of the media team, by Joseph, is to disseminate information on what UPND has done. So I want you to get it clearly. When I am coming to Ndola, I will say it again. I will bring out a lot of things. That's our mandate. So perhaps you are directing it unknown to you that that's part of our mandate, to explain what has been done using evidence-based reporting. That's why you saw me at Lusaka and Ndola do carriage with the journalists. We don't want to be just holding interviews the way we are talking here. We are getting journalists to go and see the projects. I'm sure you've seen the president doing the same. He will pick you and take you to United Capital Fertilizer and explore the machinery together. There is no time for deceit, no time for cheating citizens. They must see the machinery, and the journalists must see it with their eyes. The next point. So there's no dodging. You must tell me that you dodged this one. We're telling you the truth. We're saying we are importing. And in importing, we're saying countries we are importing from also need power. They can only release this much. But because we have to look for an alternative, which could be maybe Tanzania or East, we don't have a connection. So I don't know where that is becoming a problem to him. The next one, I think, is from Lusaka. He's talking about CDF. Every close of the year, government announces the payment of CDF in full. CDF is an ongoing project. It is not tied only to 1 year. And this is why, if you have been following current affairs, sir, is from Lusaka, it was on the floor of parliament that they will not be recalling money, because ideally, when money is not utilized in a government institution, it's supposed to be taken back to the treasury. So under this particular initiative, government made it very clear that it will not, for example, for last year, I can tell you that all the money was paid and the MPs testified. Some of them are using it at a snail speed. Yes, it's understood. Because if you have been following again the Public Accounts Committee,
is there a difference? Maybe this will help Mumba. I think his question. Is there a difference between monies being dispersed and monies being utilized?
There is a relationship.
Yeah,
there's a relationship. So there is no council that can say we have stopped. We don't have money. But when you check on TV, on Parliament TV, they are testifying that they failed to use the money.
Well, I had one MP here last week, the Lunte MP. He said that they haven't received.
I know you will say that, but he's not a member of the council. So, but I want to tell you this. That's what I'm saying. If you've been following Public Accounts Committee, we had more councils failing to use CDF money than councils complaining that they never received, my brother. We have to be factual.
Okay.
And we saw them appearing, why didn't you use the money? And we are sorry. How can you have human beings behaving like that? So, if we are sincere to ourselves, we'll agree. And I was on this platform, I'm sure you remember, where people now were concerned about the capacity to use the money. But it has improved. In 2022, we were somewhere around 30% use. This time we are over 80% use of CDF, meaning there has been training that has been going on under the Ministry of Local Government as well as the Local Government Commission. They have been undertaking capacity building workshops to capacitate our men and women who are found in these local authorities with skills to administer the CDF initiative. So in other words, the statistics I've given you should demonstrate an improvement from 30% use in 2022, 2023 to over 80% this year. Meaning the improvement in terms of use of the funds under the CDF has improved. Okay. Let me also mention that, Bakefas, you're talking about NAPSA and TOGES. It's a pity that I wanted to really get his question. It appears also he doesn't know where he said, where does the money go? This is the government institution that RD, National Road Fund Agency, is the one that receives the money. It's the one that is employing those workers that are running there. But in terms of Lusaka and Dola Dual Carriageway concession, which includes construction, remember? It simply means that the developer collects the money, pays to NAPSA with an interest for a period of that 22 years plus. There is no foul play. This is information that is on the floor of Parliament. You can go online with your phone. Kefas, you're going to find this information. There's no foul play there. Then the next thing that you raised...
Maybe just to help Kefas. I think his point is that there's the money that was used by the investor came from NAPSA. The people that are running the toll gates are the investors.
Yes.
And so they're essentially getting the money.
Yes.
And I think maybe that's
Let me explain it this way. So in other words, I want to use another term to avoid this. It's like you rent out a house. Huh? After renting out a house, as the owner, you have no power to just go and trespass. Everything belongs to the tenant. Okay? Now, in addition to that, maybe I give a more clear example, like Elisa. What you have done is you have given Kaloba to someone to construct a tarmac at half the price that was quoted some years back. And this person, after giving him Kaloba, is saying, I'm going to do the road for you. In terms of maintenance of this road, for 22 years, you will not release anything from government. I'm going to maintain it myself, but then I'll give you back this money with interest. So in other words, government has given Kaloba through a statutory body, which is a creature of statutes, which ideally, by an act of parliament, is allowed to get into contracts with the private entities, and that's NAPSA. That's why NAPSA, you have not asked how NAPSA got into a contract, because NAPSA is not a construction company, but they got into a contract with a construction company to do NAPSA houses. So it is similar, and they have struggled to sell houses, some of them even 25 years lifespan. They have already clocked 20. They have not been bought. Now I wind up on this one. The Canona, I think we had a conversation on Canona and how it came in. I think government mentioned, and they were very clear, that their cooperating partners, that ZESCO is entering into a various arrangement. In the same manner that CEC, Copper Belt Energy, had been selling power to the mines and not ZESCO directly, where they would put up, at their own cost, they will put up a line. You've seen this power line. They will either put up a line, and then ZESCO will still get more money. For example, right now, the law allows Luchi, under net metering, if he has enough or excess power under solar, to sell to ZESCO. Okay? And now, under this initiative now, the law now allows even private players to engage in, under very strict rules with ZESCO and government, to engage to a large extent to even supply and distribute, to unbundle ZESCO. Because ZESCO has collapsed primarily from the expertise opinion that it was overburdened, where it is generating, it is distributing, it is doing what, and then retailing and all those things. So they are cooperating partners. Even this one I talked about is an IPP, independent power producer in Mumbai, which will be the groundbreaking ceremony taking place on Friday. But an MOU is between them and ZESCO. Now they are allowed, like I mentioned, as a private entity to import power under certain controls by government, and they can also sell in the same manner that private entities, for example in Mozambique, can get into an MOU with ZESCO and import power. So that's what is happening. So all you need to do, Bakefas, is to understand that there is no law that has been broken. Then secondly, remove suspicion, and it's good that you've asked a question. And let me wind up by indicating that we are listening to the concerns of the people. We are not saying there is no crisis. We are saying the crisis is there. And in the midst of the crisis, what is government? It is the explanation that we are giving the people on what government is doing. And in explaining, we are telling the people that it's not a plug and play. This will not come tomorrow as you wish, because you can't set up a power plant of that magnitude like that. These have dates. They have got a period within which they can be installed. Okay. And they are installed at a cost.
Okay. I guess the best way of concluding is this from JKZ, who sends this wonderful text.
It's a wonderful text.
Yeah, in my opinion. The best way is to just say this power issue is Project 2050, so we can put our hope aside and stop the choice of abracadabra by November or December, no February, no next week. Chisamba this and that, Mamba to add to National Grid, blah, blah, blah. Again,
let me end by saying
the best way.
It is a frustrating state of affairs for some citizens, but we need to request them to continue listening. It is a passing phase. It will be a painful experience, but the dividends that government is cultivating from the initiatives of investing in alternative sources of energy will pay off someday, and it will be a thing of the past. The initiatives that the government is undertaking just mean that should we be confronted with the similar problems many years to come, we'll be able to navigate through the problems, because we'll have found a situation. It is a similar situation. There's someone was saying they are accusing it on the drought. If we are accusing it on the drought, then we should as well say the fears that the opposition had in parliament, that citizens were going to die because there was a drought, were fake. But if indeed there was a drought and farmers went without crop, and that the opposition political parties in parliament even supported the supplemented budget so that the DMMU could have money and food bought for citizens. The very fact that they did that goes to demonstrate the seriousness of the drought that we had. About 42 billion was added in the supplemented budget. About 8 billion went to DMMU, and many other programs. Cash for Work was born in order to help citizens to survive under very harsh and hostile economic conditions. So it is frustrating, it is painful, it's a bitter pill to swallow, but we must go through it.
I think, just as we finish off, I wanted to let me just reiterate something that Lukulu said. He talked about information systems and information, passing down. One of the things that I think that you've poorly handled is information flow and making things make sense to citizens. For example, the toll gate explanation, and it's not just today, by the way, even though you've explained it, a lot of people still don't get it. They still don't understand it. It just doesn't add up. And I can understand why they think it doesn't add up. NAPSA, one of the arguments is that NAPSA could easily have funded the road themselves without you having to have a third party that then owns the road for the next 22 years. It doesn't make sense. And I think the responsibility of those that are in government is to try and explain to people
here's how to make
so that
sense.
It actually does make sense.
Here's how to make sense. The PPP Act was enacted. World over, big economies are relinquishing their control of various institutions and reducing their power to governing in a narrower sense. If you go to South Africa, their longest roads are not run by government.
They are run by pension houses.
They are run by subsidiaries that are in a way private in nature.
But this is quasi-government. NAPSA is quasi-government.
That's PPP. There's a road that leads, I think, should be Durban.
I'm talking about NAPSA in this case.
I'm coming.
NAPSA is quasi-government.
I'm saying.
And all I'm saying is that you need to explain this better so that
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. And in responding, I'm saying NAPSA is not a construction entity. NAPSA is not a construction entity. It enters into MOU. And what I did deliberately, I gave an example of NAPSA houses. Zambia National Building Society had an element of building. The entities are different fundamentally by legislation. So NAPSA will operate, it can lend money. It's like you're asking, as much as they can do. People have registered and they've been licensed as APSA or FNB. Then instead, FNB will give you loans if you want to invest in a construction of flats. Now, what we are doing to NAPSA is that you want to ask FNB, why doesn't FNB construct itself? It's business. So what NAPSA is doing now by lending is business. They are into business. In the same manner that Zambia National Building Society has been lending money for people to construct. They're in business.
Like I said, you need to explain. To explain it better.
Now,
but I'm out of time. I'm out of time.
Yes.
This is not an explanation that you can provide. I really think this is an explanation that really should be coming from the Minister of Infrastructure together with the Minister of Finance, maybe even Minister of Labor, because of obviously.
Actually, we have what we have done.
Explain to people.
Yeah, what we have done.
This makes sense.
Part of what we have done is what I announced to you. For example, we are having media engagements. So the media plays a critical role. For example, like the one we had at Mlungushi, we'll be having another media engagement with the Indeni. We want them to explain the shortages of fuel in some filling sessions.
Maybe the key one, and for the next few months.
Exactly. So
it's just ZESCO.
So ZESCO is coming, and
rather than
so
Indeni.
soon.
Nobody cares very much about Indeni, but I think everybody cares more about ZESCO.
About ZESCO.
Yes. All right. That is the program for today. Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you.